Hello and welcome to Low Man Wins Draft Grades Edition. My name is Andrew Miller, of course, and with me, as always, my trusty cohort, Alex Kramer. Alex, how you doing?
Excited to be back. A little bit of a sabbatical, but we're back and ready to go.
Oh, it's been a bit. Like the draft has been a month away, and now mini camps are starting to come up now.
Rookie mini camps already happened.
They
Virtual
did?
rookie mini camps, yeah.
Virtual rookie, yes, you have to become. There's no escape for the mental game. Football is first and foremost a mental game.
I guess. I mean, I don't know how much you can do with a virtual rookie mini camp, but I mean, whatever you can do.
Anyway, we're here to recap, give you division by division NFL draft grades for every team, and let's just get right into it. We're going to start with the NFC East, and the first team we're going to talk about is the Philadelphia Eagles. Headlining moves, there were really two headlining moves for them. They passed on Justin Jefferson at 21 to take Jalen Reagor, and then they took Jalen Hurts with their second-round pick. I'm going to give this to you, Alex. What did you think of their draft class in general?
I thought it was really funny that you started off with them because they were my second lowest rated draft out of anybody.
Really?
So I gave them a flat out F. Are they replacing Carson Wentz or do they just really value backup quarterbacks? I mean, they needed depth at a plethora of positions last year. They had an incredible number of injuries. You could have addressed wide out, corner, all of these positions. They took, in my opinion, the fourth best wide receiver left on the board in the first round when guys like Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins are on the clock. I think that the best pick they made was in the sixth round. They took a developmental tackle by the name of Prince Tega. I have struggled to say this name through this whole process. Winogo. Yeah, I mean, Kayvon Wallace has some good positional versatility out of safety out of Clemson. But, I mean, this class, I struggled to find players who are going to hit for them. I mean, Hurts, ideally, if they have the best season, he's never going to see the field next year. Reagor, I mean, I thought the Ravens might take him in the second. I never thought for a second he was going to go in the first. So it's an F for me.
Yeah, I think I gave this draft – I'm giving this draft a C- only because I think they saved it towards the end. I loved the beginning of Jack Driscoll to be a backup guard, which they need now that Halapoulivaati Vaitai is not there anymore. I love Davion Taylor is one of my favorite players in the draft, except he was drafted a little too high in the third round, for my opinion. Kayvon Wallace, a good pick. I like John Hightower and Prince Tega Winogu. My problem here is, why are you triple dipping at wide receiver in this draft? That was a huge thing for me. They got 3 receivers in this draft, which was weird because I think they didn't need 3 receivers. And it really goes back to the first 2 picks. I like Jalen Reagor as a deep threat. My problem is you're contending for a Super Bowl now, and Jalen Reagor is pretty much Deshaun Jackson, which they have. That was the weird thing to me.
Like, I don't think he's as good as just Deshaun Jackson.
No, but that's the role he occupies.
I mean, the 2 guys you could have got could have been number 1 wide receivers on your team, and Justin Jefferson and T. Higgins. Those are number 1 wide receiver guys. Those are the elite guys in this class.
Especially when it's very well known that Alshon Jeffrey kind of wants out. So it's like,
I mean, that pick was inexcusable, and in my opinion, it just did not get better from there.
I think it got better after the 3rd round, but I think your first 3 rounds are important, and I think the Jalen Hurts pick, it's just. I get that you like him and you think you can capitalize on him later. I just think that you're competing for now. You have needs. They didn't draft 1 cornerback this whole draft. I know they traded for Darius Slay, which was a great get. But Jalen Hurts, you need to move forward with Carson Wentz or Jalen Hurts. And I'm a believer in Carson Wentz. It made no sense. The C- I thought was a generous grade to them because I think they got good value later. But I think I didn't like that they triple dipped at wide receiver. I did not like that their first 2 picks are essentially washes. So
I can completely agree with you. I mean, I don't think we disagree on Reagor and Hurts is just. I mean, in their best case scenario, if they went to the Super Bowl, he wouldn't play a snap. I mean, he's not going to help if everything goes right. And I get it. You're trying to take a player for in case something goes wrong, but I mean, second round picks need to produce.
And you could have kind of backup quarterback later, is what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Jalen Hurts went. Jacob Eason went in the 4th, and he was also.
He went in the 5th.
He went in the 5th. Oh, he went the top of the 5th. That's right.
Still, I mean,
it's like you could have gotten a guy later. Do what Sean Payton does and just pick guys in the 7th who they want to work a little bit. But that's besides the point. So that is our grade for the Philadelphia Eagles. The next team we'll be doing is probably the most publicized draft in this whole class, the Dallas Cowboys. They started out by getting probably the value pick of the first round, which was CeeDee Lamb, my third-ranked receiver, falling all the way to 18, I think it was when they drafted him.
17.
17? Yeah, well, thank you, Kramer. They got probably value at every spot in the draft and got like legit starters everywhere. I gave this draft an A. I love the pick of CeeDee Lamb was a great pick. Trayvon Diggs, I think, is in a position of need and a high upside guy. I like Reggie Robinson. I think he occupies a similar role to Jordan Lewis, so we'll see what goes on there. But Biotish, Neville Gallimore, and Anai are the real getters of this guy. They get a really good third pass rush option opposite DeMarcus Lawrence and Bradley Anai, and a good starting center who I think could have been a first-rounder in Tyler Biotish, and not to mention a great interior penetrator like Neville Gallimore. My only problem with it is that this whole draft class is that I don't see how their team got better than last year because I think CeeDee Lamb is a little bit of a redundant need. Michael Gallup was a great enough number 2, and I get CeeDee Lamb put your number 1 offense over the top, but how much better can your team get when you're trying to contend for a Super Bowl this year when you're basically improving a number 1 offense?
Yeah, I agree with you in the fact that I don't think this team is better than last year. But this draft was my number 1 rated draft. It really wasn't that close. I mean, CeeDee Lamb was my number 1 wide receiver. He's a top 6 player on my board. They got him at 17. I think the value there is incredible. I mean, Amari Cooper he got that big deal, but I mean, there's outs after 2 years. So I mean, they could save some money if they just run the 3 wide receiver sets for 2 years and then get out of that Amari Cooper contract. Going on from there, I'm not the biggest Trayvon Diggs fan, but I mean, in the second round, you're betting on that athleticism, and that's not at all a bad pick. Neville Gallimore is a second-round player, arguably an end-of-a first-round player. He's going to make a big impact there at D-tackle. Other than Murray at Oklahoma, he was the best player on that defense. Biotish, I don't think he's a first-round player. I think that he's a second, third-round player, but he's still – other than Ruiz, he's one of the best centers in this draft. And
I had him
replacing Travis Frederick. I mean, and you replaced Travis Frederick with a really solid center. And you made the point earlier when we were just talking that, he's not as good as Frederick. And I mean, no, but you're not going to get a center unless you're drafting a Quentin Nelson type player who's going to be better than Frederick. So you're replacing him with a guy who's going to be solid. And Bradley Anai is insane value in the 5th round.
I don't know how he
Ben DiNucci, I didn't have – I mean, Ben DiNucci is the quarterback that I'm not exactly sure what's going on there. They have Andy Dalton, but, 7th round, they're taking a shot. But overall, A-plus grade for me.
Well, listen, there's always been – Bob Quinn said something, and one of the few things I agree with Bob Quinn about, that he said it's always good business to take a quarterback every other year. And that's just kind of true. If you have a guy that you kind of like, take a flyer on him in the 2nd round. He either becomes like a really good backup or you never use him, or he's like somebody that people are interested in. I watched some James Madison type film from watching Trey Lance for next year. And you know what? The guy is poised and accurate. That's about as much as I can say for him. But I think that they got a good draft overall. I think the one thing I would have done with the Dallas Cowboys, imagine if they took Cesar Ruiz instead of CeeDee Lamb. That would have been something I thought would have been a smarter move if they really wanted to go offense.
I think CeeDee Lamb's value is too great there, but either way, we're nitpicking here on one of the best drafts.
The next draft we're going to talk about is probably one of the more underratedly good drafts. Dave Gettleman has been made fun of by me. I didn't like one pick he made last year. But this year I think he stepped up his game. The New York Giants, I gave them, Kramer, what did you give them first of all? Because I have my.
I gave him an A-.
I
gave him an A-. I really liked this draft.
Yeah, I gave him an A- too. I think they got value everywhere. They got just start out. I'll speak, but they got Shane Lemieux, who in like the 5th, who I thought was a 2nd round, 3rd round guard, who's just a big who's like a big hog molly, which I know Dave Gettleman likes. I think getting Andrew Thomas. I mean, he was my 3rd rated tackle. I think he was probably like the best floor guy, which is what they really need to like make a solid foundation for Daniel Jones. Xavier McKinney in the second round was great value. It reminds me a lot, actually, of Landon Collins a couple of years ago when they traded up for him. One of my favorite players in the whole draft was Matt Pert. I mean, he's just a big guy, and you can't get enough of those guys on your offense. I thought it was exactly where I thought he should be from UConn. Darnay Holmes, I think, was a good corner, not my favorite corner, but I think that he occupies a similar role that DeAndre Baker will offer, even though I never really liked DeAndre Baker. And then you get a good tackler later, Carter Coughlin, who I thought was an underrated player in this draft, and then Chris Williamson, another guy from – I mean, they drafted 4 linebackers, but I think as long as one of them or 2 of them hits, you're golden.
Yeah, I completely agree. I love the Andrew Thomas pick. I think it was really smart. I think he's the safest tackle in this class. He's my tackle too. At worst, you just got a top 5, top 6 guard in the class or in the country. I mean, he's gonna be a great player on that line that needs great linemen. Xavier McKinney, in my opinion, was the best safety in this class. You get a playmaker on that back end they haven't had since they let Landon Collins walk for some no reason. I like Matt Pert too. In the 3rd round, that makes a lot of sense. Developmental tackle. Hopefully, he gets a year or 2 under his feet, gets his feet wet, maybe playing a little right tackle. But I mean, that he could slot in there in the next year or 2. I love Darnay Holmes. I think he's going to play some slot for him. I think he's going to be a really good player. Shane Lemieux, I think the value fit there. I don't like Cameron Brown very much. I love Carter Coughlin. I think that Coughlin has a really good motor. Brunson does too. I think both those players could make an impact from their 7th round. A- grade for me. This is a really good draft from Gettleman, and I did not expect to like anything that he did.
Yeah, I agree. I think T.J. Brunson I had as a higher grade than Cameron Brown, which is always funny when you see the same thing go opposite. I think Cameron Brown, sometimes you just need a tackler. That's like those big, like, prototype 1980s middle linebackers. You got to have one of those on every team.
But he's not that strong, though. That's my worry about him. He's a thumper, but he's not that strong. So
yeah,
he needs to add weight, but we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And then the last draft from the NFC East that we'll talk about is the Washington Redskins. I got to be honest with you. Outside of Chase Young, I did not like really anything they did this whole class, except maybe Antonio Gandy-Galvin in the 4th. And Sadiq Charles in the 3rd. But
I disagree with you. I really like this class. I gave him a B+. I mean, Chase Young, they got the best player in the class, so obviously that's gonna. I don't think they could have done lower than a B- because of that. But I mean, outside of that, you got 2 playmakers in Gibson and Gandy Golden. I think that both of them can kind of complement what Terry McLaurin does. And they're getting Dwayne Haskins or Kyle Allen some weapons. Sadiq Charles needs to get his head on straight, but if his head's on straight, I mean, he has the talent to be a starting left tackle. Kawika Hudson's, we saw him play at Michigan. He's got some potential, but we'll see what he makes of it. And then Cameron Curl is an underrated safety who is going to play some special teams, but I think he has a little bit of potential to make something out of himself out of the 7th round.
I didn't really pay attention to Cameron Curl that much, but you can't pay attention to everyone in this draft. The one thing I'll say about this draft, I love Chase. Yes, they got the best player in the draft in Chase Young. Kawika Hudson is a guy I think will have just a pure role in any defense. He's a pure blitzer in his nature, and that's what he'll be. I love Antonio Gandy-Galvin. You're right, Sadiq Charles. My only major problem is you have no 2nd round pick, and you use your 3rd round pick on a running back in Antonio Gibson. I know he's very versatile, but he's one of my man crushes in the class. I just think they need more substance in the 3rd. They had limited draft capital this time, and I think they need to get more substance at certain spots than just invest in a running back like Antonio Gibson. I thought that was, but you're right. You can't give it any more than a B-, which is exactly what I gave it. I gave him a B- for this class. I like a lot of their picks. I just think that they didn't get a lot of foundation players outside of maybe Sadiq Charles and Chase Young.
Fair enough. They needed a cornerback in this class, and they did. Ignored the position completely. So there's some good and bad. I like some of the players they took. I thought they got better in this class.
Yeah, I mean, they finally got rid of Trent Williams, so that we'll see how the future of the Redskins go. I think they'll either be – and no, this draft I thought this draft should have been a lot more about Dwayne Haskins and trying to move on from and trying to like figure out if he's the guy. But at the end of the day, the decent class and you got the best player available, and that is our grades for the NFC East. Tune in more. We'll be coming at you the rest of the divisions.